I love the Civ games, and I've been playing these Civilization games for a really long time. And when Civilization 7 kind of got announced and more information came out about the game, I got extremely disappointed at the direction that the series has gone. And I love strategy games, and one of the most important things in strategy games for me and in the Civilization games is immersion. It's that role playing and that lore aspect of things. It's not that I don't like complicated strategy games or trying to optimize things. I do. I love that aspect of things. I play a lot of the Paradox games. But something that's really important to me and a key enjoyment factor for me in many strategy games is that immersion, is that role playing. It's that lore aspect. And I think that Civilization 7 kind of went in this really wrong direction. I really wanted to focus on this idea in particular because it's so important to me with regards to video games. And honestly, I think that a lot of strategy fans and Civilization fans probably care about this more than any other gameplay mechanic idea that you could throw out there. So with Civilization 7, I think that the biggest problem is the civilization switching mechanic and kind of maintaining yourself as a leader. Now, many people have talked about this idea and their dislike of this idea, but for someone that really is big on the immersion and lore and role-playing aspect of the game, this is a non-starter for me. And it's just such an immersion-breaking experience because it just makes no sense, right? It would almost make more sense to play as a civilization throughout time and then switch leaders from an immersion perspective. If you had to keep this gameplay mechanic, you have this immersion-breaking experience with the leaders. And I've always liked the aspect of building my empire up, to build my civilization up, and to see the progression over time. It's like when you start with that one city on the ocean, and slowly over time, the population gets bigger. There's a harbor now, and then there's a lighthouse. Maybe then there's a monument. And then you have another city that's on an island, and then another city, and there's these roads that connect them. And you slowly kind of have this headcanon, this lore around this one city. Even though you're not really acting it out, it's in your mind. And you see those farmlands, and maybe you have this idea that this one city is this economic powerhouse, and to the north of you is this huge river. I just love that idea. I love that immersion, even if it's just within your own mind, that makes the game so much more fun. You know, you have that idea in the Civilization series, one more turn. Well, I feel like the one more turn is not just like the progression and getting more powerful with research or something like that. It's also that that city gets that lighthouse now, or that city gets that building. And so there's that immersion that you're excited for. It's not just the mechanic of getting more powerful, it's the role playing with it as well. And I think that Civ switching mechanic is just so detrimental to it because I think so many people, they want to play from their home country. They want to role play as that civilization or those ideas, and that fundamentally breaks things. And I think that on top of that, you have, of course, the aspect where you have less ages than in the past, which I think is another aspect that's just a slow erosion of the immersion process of the game, especially when you look at the past and there was more ages. And some people would say, well, that maybe those ages were not needed or makes things more optimized. But I think for some people, they just don't care. They don't care that if it's not optimized or something like that. It's that role playing. It's that immersion from going to the ancient era to medieval to the Renaissance to the modern day. That's this fun progression with the game. And, you know, with those Civ switching mechanics, I mean, I have to imagine that they thought about this idea. It would seem to me that it would be unlikely that no one thought to themselves that this might break the immersion of the game, or people might not really like this. To me, they almost had to think about it. It just seems like it's a very high level of risk thing to do. So why would you do this? Why would you want to go in this direction? To me, that just seemed very odd. And to me, it just seems really off. And it also seemed like really just bad to me too, where you've just seen Civilization become so much more monetized now. I mean, no Great Britain at launch it just seems really disrespectful in so many ways, especially when it's been such a core to the series as well. And so when you have like this DLC, you just kind of feel like, in a way, unimmersed with the game because it's just everything is just being sold back to you in these slices. Sell all these leaders, sell all these factions, rather than just kind of this expansion pack and being done with it. I mean, when I'm playing a video game, I want to be immersed in that process. I want to feel that role playing and that aspect with it. And sometimes when you play some of these modern video games, you feel like you're not playing a video game. You're unimmersed because you're reminded of all these microtransactions in the video game, even if those microtransactions aren't directly in the user interface. But sometimes they are in a particular video game, and it just takes you out of the immersion because now it's just like they're trying to get me to buy some additional thing or you play as a certain faction, you're just reminded that you're just have been excessively monetized with some of these factions or something like that because of all the DLC that's constantly in there. I would rather just pay the price to play and then be done with it. Just keep me immersed. I don't want this constant reminder or even just a psychological reminder of having to spend all this money to get all these additional civilizations or whatever, but that's a whole broader topic. On top of the whole civ switching leader mechanic and the ages and stuff like that, I really like the older graphic style that was kind of more realistic. There seemed to be a little bit more of this realism to things. I mean, at least with Civilization 5. And you kind of saw a more direction going into this kind of cartoony nature with Civ 6, which I really did not like that artistic direction. And with Civ 7, in some respects, you kind of went a little bit back to a more realistic setting with the map at least, but not with the leaders. And the cartoony aspect with strategy games, I really don't care for it. Much rather have that kind of more realistic, gritty look because it kind of keeps me more immersed in that world. And I could say that about a lot of different games. Like, for example, for anyone that's played it, Europa Universalis 4, I think, has a little bit more of this kind of grittiness to it, versus the UI changes in EU5 with the character portraits that was more aligned with Crusader Kings 3. So I don't really like those cartoony styles. It's not that you can't play a game that has cartoony styles. Like, I like Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3's kind of got that cartoony aesthetic to it. That's fine, but there's certain games that I want that kind of realism. I want that identity in everything, whether it's the user interface or the characters themselves and the map and all those things. And it seems like a really small thing. And I think for some gamers that are kind of more strategically minded, they think, oh, I don't really care. I don't care if there's cartoony graphics. I don't care about the civ switching mechanics and all those things. Who cares? This game is fun. It's okay for it to change. It's like they want to provide you all these reasons why you actually should like it. And for me, it just doesn't matter. I mean, to me, that immersion is important. And I don't want to switch civilizations over and over again. I want that more realistic graphics. And it's enough for me to go, this just doesn't appeal to me as much. And I think there's a lot of casual gamers or gamers that like this immersion aspect that would think similarly to me. Even if you improved all the gameplay mechanics, it's just those are really big aspects. The cartoony graphics, there has to be probably some reason why. Maybe it's to make it more mass appealable or something like that. But I don't really care for that direction of things. And I think this idea that I'm talking about, this realistic graphics versus this cartoony graphics, this focus on realism and being immersed is important in strategy games. And I've seen a lot of strategy games, they kind of gone away from this. I don't think this is unique to Civilization 7, although it's relevant given that we're talking about Civ 7. But I think that this immersion is important in so many different strategy games. I think a lot of people really love this idea. I love this in like a lot of the strategy games that I play, whether it's Stellaris or EU4 or whatever it is. So I think that this is a component that is so important in strategy games that goes beyond just the strategy and the complexities to it. With video games, it's about being immersed in that experience and that headcanon that you have, and that's what makes it so much fun. And I think that for a lot of people too, strategy games, I think a lot of people love the historical components in these video games. They love that immersion. And I think that for a lot of people, these strategy games over time have gotten people into history. It got them interested in a historical subject, and they picked up books in real life and started reading about it. They made you want to read more about a certain time period in history or a certain person. And that's a really awesome thing about strategy video games and video games in general, is that it can have this huge positive impact on your life, whether it's inspiring you to go to a certain career path or to learn something new or to be exposed to something interesting. And I think that that immersion and that historical nature to things is important for a lot of people because, like I said, it got them into history. It got them into reading about something or some other aspect about video games. The Sims gets someone passionate about wanting to be an architect or something like that. And I think that's the power of video games, and it's the power of immersion. And that's what I don't like about the direction of Civ 7, because it just seems like that component that's so important for so many different people seems to have gone in a direction that's not great. And unfortunately, I think a lot of other video games and strategy games have had this problem. But let me know what you think. What's your thoughts on Civ 7 and the immersion aspect in the Civ series and in strategy games and in games in general? Let me know what you think. And hey, if you liked this video, I make a lot of awesome video game content on my channel. Check it out. Consider liking and subscribing. And I have an awesome 2+ hour video where I recommend a lot of awesome video games and talk about a lot of awesome video games that I think you would get a ton of value out of. Check it out if you're interested. And I will see you in the next video.